remember, like this is a two-way type of experience, right? You are both students and candidates for a certification, right? And since we're certifying you with a University of Toronto Bachelor's of Science degree, which is meaningful, right? I expect that you guys want us to have some type of bar that you have to. You want your degree to mean something, don't you? Once you're given it. So that means we have to catch cheaters and kick out the people who aren't responsibly, well, aren't doing the same type of work that you're doing, right? Doing your own work, showing up for the midterms, and not cheating, right? I want to reward the people who are here certifying themselves genuinely, right? So just telling you, cheating is not a viable strategy. You're wasting your time. You're just biding your time until we kick you out of the department. And I get furious when I see stuff online like this. Did I yell about you? Did I yell at you guys for that already? It must have been the other ones I yelled at. So I'll now yell at you guys. What's the point of cheating? Like what's going to happen when you go to a job? You think you're going to find people to do your job for free while you get paid while they write your code? It's not going to work. Buck is going to stop. So you might as well start learning how to do the job that you want now. Right? That's what I thought we're all here for. But I guarantee you, one day it's all going to catch up. Right? And you're going to have to do your own job. Right? So, well, unless you go into politics or something, then you can continue being professor getting all political. Right? Just mention the word politics. Anyway, so today, what we're going to do is I have maybe close to half a dozen, maybe a little bit more functions. We're going to write together very aggressive Docstring tests. And then you guys are going to go home and implement the functions and ensure that your functions pass all the Docstring tests that we come up with. Bonus fun for today. You know, I always assumed, no offense, that it was my other section who were the smart ones, but it turns out you guys are the smart ones. But, so, because we have collected from that section, I have all of their test cases that they came up with an hour before. So after we come up with the test cases, we can compare and see if you guys got more or less than the last section, right? But you guys are now my favorites. It used to be the other section, but like now you guys are my favorite, right? Well, they bring me presents occasionally. I've never, yeah, they sometimes bring me coffee, right? Which is the best way. Yeah, I like my coffee black, right? It's the easiest type of coffee that you could require. And if you glue money to the cup, I wouldn't be against that either. Okay, shh. Let's do some work, right? Okay, so I'm going to create this file. Let's open it. So our first task of the day is very easy. Whoops. Let's just get rid of this. Okay, so the first one of the day is just a function called rMaximum, which returns the maximum of two numbers. Right, so you should be able to write this. Okay, I'm just going to write this. Right, that's one way of writing it, but let's pretend we don't have access to it. Well, I'm going to write this in a dumb way. I'm going to say L is equal to a list, X and Y. Then I'm going to say, let's sort L, and then return the last member of L. Right, so it's a terrible way of returning the maximum, but should technically work. Okay, so let's write some Docstring tests. I'll start us off. rmax of 2 and 3 should return 3. So you guys now tell me the rest of the cases that you want to insert in here to make sure that this function is working faithfully, right? Yes? Okay. Keep them coming. Yeah. 0 and 0. Why did you pick that edge case? Because they're both the same and it's a 0. It's a twofer. So that should be a 0. Anything else? 1 and 1. Do you think that's meaningfully different than the 0, 0 case? Minus 5, 0. That should return a 0. Is that enough, you reckon? I can't give empty. Right? You can't violate the contract, so we're expecting integers, so they have to be integers. Well, I think this function is so simple that probably this is enough. So I'm just going to remind you guys how to actually run the tests. So you go into Python, you call in your function. Whoops. Python. You make sure that you've imported doctest, and then you can do doctest dot test modulus. And if you want, you can turn this verbose function to on. And there you go. So we've passed all of our tests, right? Which means that this, despite dumb written function, works. This one I started doing with the other class, and then I realized that we couldn't write Docstring tests for it. So I'm going to skip it, and I have to come back on Friday to tell you how to deal with these. I don't know how to write a Docstring test for a dictionary. Remember I was talking a lot about, well, what do we write when the output is not ordered? Like, I don't know which one to pick. So I'm going to read a little bit about it. Apparently it is possible to do a docstring test on a dictionary. There's just like a lot of hackery that's involved. And what it fundamentally ends up turning into is a unit test. And if I have any time at the end of the class, I can show you how to do unit testing, although in order to do a unit test, you have to instantiate an object. And none of you know what objects are yet. So I'm like really hesitant to show you how to do a proper unit test. Well, good, right? At least one, right? So we're going to skip this one. Friday, we'll return to it. Let's do this one instead. So give it a read. So basically, you're going to be given a string and another string. And you want to return all indexes of the string where you can find the presence of some substring. But the substrings have to be non-overlapping. So why does this return 3, 9, 14? Well, at 0, 1, 2, 3, I find an instance of 00. This doesn't count because it's overlapping. Right? So the next one I find is at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is where the next one is. And then 10, 11, 12, 14. There. Right, so that's why we find the instance of 00 at 3, 9, and 14. I'm going to give you another one. This. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What should that be? I think that's correct, yeah? So there's one at 0. That's this one. Then there's one that starts at 2. That's this one. Then there's one that starts at 4. That's that one. Okay, so I gave you 2. Now I want you guys to give me a bunch more. How many did the other class find? One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They found 8. 8 non-redundant ones. Because it would be easy to come up with 8 redundant ones. Anything. Anything. Empty string. Perfect. And I don't know, maybe something full. What should that be? No. Empty list. Right? There's no presence of that in there. What about, okay, anything else? More edge cases. Right? Indices, empty string, empty string. Does that violate the contract? Yeah, subsequence is not empty. That's great. Okay, so I'm going to say XX, XXX, XXX, which could mean booze or pornography, or both, right? Why, right? Should be empty. All right, you guys satisfied with that for your docstring testing, despite the other class getting twice as many as you? My rapidly declining favorite class. Yeah. Well, let's talk about this. So this should still be empty. Well, let's make this more fun. Let's make this xxx, xxx. Well, I don't know why that happened, but okay. So this would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, right? Just to make sure that we're doing case testing properly. What else? So my other class came up with stuff like this. Yeah, you got it, right? So my other class came up with stuff like this. What happens if we're looking for spaces in this? Right? That should be 0, 1, 2, 3. Right? A tab is 4 spaces. So if I look for a space in the tab, right, that should... Well, actually, I don't know. Hold on. What's the length of this? Is that going to be 1 or 4? I think that may be 1. Okay, so this should be empty. Alright, and maybe this one should be, if I just give you a bunch of empty spaces. Now, is this a non-redundant case that I just wrote? Who said no? It's right. Why is it no, right? Yeah, don't make this mistake of like giving strings data types that they don't have, right? So often it's the case that people in like docstring testing will, like with characters, will use letters and numbers as if they're like a different case, right? So you're testing strings that happen to be characters and strings that happen to be numbers, but in both cases you've just tested non-empty strings. The same is true for the empty, like for the space. The space isn't really special. It's just a character like any other character, right? So don't make the mistake of thinking that strings that look like other data types are actually different. It's just a string and a string and a string and a string and a string, right? Don't treat numbers, digits, special characters, letters differently. Okay, so if I search for spaces in that, that should be 0 and 1. So how many we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. One more, just so we can match the other class. What about this one? What is wrong with my computer? Many things. What is the length of this? Well, anyone care to make a guess? Yeah. Why? Yeah, remember? In order to print a backslash, you actually have to escape it, right? So what I'm actually asking for in this one is search for a single backspace in these 2 backspaces. So this one should actually return 0 and 1, believe it or not. Right? Because the input string is of length 2. It has a single slash at position 0 and 1. I'm searching for a single slash, so it's going to report you found one at 0 and 1. Right, so escape characters sort of do occupy a special place among these strings, right? For one, printed they look differently than when you input them, so that should be enough to merit attention. Okay, let's do more. And then whatever we have time at the end, I'll just use to implement the functions. Random question. Do you guys know who Pokeroo is? Oh, that's sad. Pokeroo, Pokeroo. Okay, insert after. Pokeroo, it's a TV Ontario kid show that was very popular when I was young. Yeah. Anyways, so here's a function where we want to insert A after each occurrence of B in the list X's. Right? So, can someone give me any valid example to start us off? I'll just give you a string like this. So if I replace insert A after each occurrence of B. So after each occurrence of E, I want to insert a F. Right, so that should return like with this type of quote, because this would have made the docstring fail. Hello world, something like this. Okay. Well, there's a typical case. Why are you doing that? Give me more. All the empties. Okay, empty, and then X. Oh my god. X and X should be empty. What about insert after empty spaces replaced with big X's? Still empty, right? Because there's no space in that empty string. I saw one over there. Yeah. You mean space?
No, just empty.
Well, there's nothing in empty.
Well, no, that has something in it.
This?
Yeah, and then the one next, yeah, that's gonna be empty. And then
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna step back. This is not empty. It has length 1.
no, but the one which you're looking for is empty. Yeah, and then something like any.
Okay, and we'll replace it with X. So this is the fun part, right? We get to decide what what the most sensible return would be here, right? Because it's not very clear what it should be. Right? They've just given us a loose guideline. So like, we have to ask the question now: what would you expect back from this? Like, where does the empty string occur in this space? Because like, it's not the case that like each, like, if I have a string, it's not the case that this is in hello world. Oh, it is. How about this? Okay, let's do some investigatory work, okay? In hello world, where is it find? Index. Where is there an index for an empty? Found when it's 0. But like, how many of the empty characters should I replace? There's an infinite amount of empty characters in any string, right? Empty, 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 X, right? This is like any number 2. I can add an arbitrary number of zeros to it. I don't want to cheat. I don't want to go back into here and say, lol, assume input is not empty, right? Because that just sort of bypasses the problem here. Huh? But why did you make the arbitrary decision to replace one empty string with a character? Why not replace 50 empty strings with the character? Why not 1,000,000 of them, right? I don't know. So if you guys come up with some good idea, but like fundamentally my problem is any string contains an infinite number of empty characters. Yeah. Based off the docstring. Oh, sorry. I flipped this. I should have been doing this. Right. I flipped this in the last class too. Insert A after every occurrence of B. Yeah, so after every occurrence of empty, I want to insert an X. So sorry. I flipped. Now that's what you had said was correct, but now I fixed my mistake. Right. Yeah.
Why are we inserting strings when we should be inserting numbers?
Okay, I'm going to just return a list of integers. Because technically this is happening in place, right? The list that you pass is getting modified in place. Oh, also, why am I doing this with strings? These should all be list of integers. Okay, guys. Why didn't one of you stop me? Supposedly smarter section. Let's start over again. 1, 2, 3. So after each occurrence, after each A, I want to insert a 4. Okay, so that should be something like 1, 2, 4, 3. Insert an A after, no, I did it backwards again. Okay, after each occurrence of B, which there's none, this will do this. Insert after 4, 2 should be 2, 4, 3. Although my mistaken problem was actually far more interesting than this one. Okay, so now we have to do all of the empties. So that should be nothing. Any other interesting cases here? Maybe we should insert after 1, 2, 3. Insert after 2, put a 2. So let's do this. 2, 2, 2. So what should this be? I think just double the amount of 2's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Anything else? So this a function that passes these doc tests would be mission critical accepted. 0, 0, 0, 0. And doing what? Like, I don't think 0 is an edge case in this problem, right? The 0 of this data type is empty. And I think we've already handled that. Okay, so maybe that's enough for this one, but feel free to add more. So I don't know about testing for the assignment. I'm actually in disagreement with the other instructors that sharing doc strings should be cheating. So like, here's the problem. What would be best is that you guys get together and create a huge database of like docstring tests. Okay. The problem is many of you would just download the database without looking at it and like critically analyzing why things are in the docstring. Like, so if you don't contribute to the database but use it, you're going to learn nothing about writing docstring tests. So like that perspective I understand, right? Letting you share would mean that some of you are going to be lazy and not study, basically, not understand the doc test. So, maybe work in partners or something and try to break each other's code. Be very careful with writing very similar pieces of code, right? Because you're going to get caught by the system. Again, the best way to insulate yourself against having to come in and explain yourself is just to sit by yourself and code as the last step. By yourself, not over someone's shoulder, not with someone's help. But get your friend to try to break your assignment. Right? Try to come up with like interesting maps where funny things will happen. That's the best way to go. Okay. Yeah, I don't know how to do these ones with dictionaries. All right, this one's fun. Okay. So here's a different one. Where you're basically just given a list of student IDs with their grade, and you want to return a float of the average grade. Right, so the average grades among 70, 90, and 83 would give you an 81.0. I'm going to nominate an edge case because when you're doing averages, coders would typically say something like, sum up the things I want to average and then divide by the number of things, right? So if I give an empty list, the average grade should be 0, which I can explain if you want, but this edge case is actually going to check for divisions by 0. Right? Because there's 0 people in the pool, right? So new coders typically always throw 0 errors when writing an average function for failing to consider what happens when you're taking the average of an empty collection. That there's going to be something that's saying divide by the number of objects, which is going to be 0. Like a lot of people made this mistake on the midterm actually, by like not accounting for the 0 edge case. Yeah. Definitely you. Well, definitely a lot of people, right? So, but that's why you have to be careful with these nuances, right? I trust that all of you can write code like fairly well at this point. It's like you all learned how to spell and write words, but now you all need to learn how to like connect them into prose that are like readable and do stuff, right? So it's one thing to know what a for loop is, what a while loop is. It's another thing to be able to use them in concert to solve a problem. But anyways, there's my nomination. Does anyone have any explanation why? We could have had a big class discussion about this. What is the average over an empty collection? Yeah, it is 0, but I told you, right? So that. Okay, fine. What's the? Do you know this notation for sum? Okay, do you know if I gave you a set is like 1, 2, 3, and then I said take the sum for A and A of A, what would this be? Yeah, 1 plus 2 plus 3. This is actually interesting. Okay, but we want to do this thing kind of recursively, right? So if I were to program a computer to do this, I might say to do it like this. Take the sum, and I'm just going to use this shorthand, right? Sum over this set. This is actually equal to the sum, oops. Next time I'm just going to bring scissors. All right. This is equal to 1 plus sum of 2, 3 plus, which is equal to 1 plus 2 plus sum of 3. Is everyone following what I'm doing here? I'm just pulling something out of the set and summing it, which means that this is equal to 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus sum of empty. So what does sum of empty have to be? Has to be, just by definition, or this procedure won't work. And that's the answer to a lot of, well, why is 2 to the power of 0, 1? Well, I just come up with an argument that says, look how the pattern like descends to the base case. And then once we hit the base case, you'll see that it has to be the number we've defined. Play the same experiment with multiplication. Just replace this sum in with this symbol, right? And then what will you find out about the sum of the empty set? The product of the empty set. Play the same game. Play the same game, except replace all of these pluses with multiplication. 1, right? Because when you get to the end, you don't want to multiply by 0. That would have killed everything. Right, so that's my justification for why the average grade among an empty set is 0. Right? Because the sum of that collection is 0, right, by definition. So, 0.0. Okay, more edge cases. Is that really it? Well, I think one thing I gave you as a guideline was that you should always try a singleton. Just something like this. And that should return back what? 70.0. Okay, yeah, so we can basically just take this out if that makes you uncomfortable.
No, it's just because, like, does that mean that it can also accept stuff that are not string int?
Well, ideally I'd want to write something like this, but we don't have a mechanism for saying that. So it's basically just, like, this isn't doing type checking anyways, so given that it's just notation for us, you can just leave it like this. But like technically any function will accept anything and then try operating on it, right? So if you had a function which is supposed to add two integers and you gave it two lists, it would return to you a list concatenation, right? So this is the difference between Python, a highly interpreted language, versus C, a lower one, right? Python basically doesn't care. It's just going to cast everything to the largest data type it can. It's like, oh, you gave me an integer, but you multiplied by 2.0? No problem. Like, this thing's now a float. Oh, you just added a list? No problem. This thing's now a list, right? You don't get that type of behavior in languages that are lower level. So you guys don't want to give me one more, knowing that the other class found more than you? I'm going to put you guys at each other's throats. They're not happy that you beat them, by the way. And I keep rubbing it in their face. One more? Anything? Yeah.
Can the grades be decimals?
Yeah, grades can be decimals. That's a good point. So let's do this. And maybe the answer should be 70.1. All right. All right. If you're satisfied with these, let's see what the other class managed. Basically the same as you. All right. How many more do we got? All right, this will be good to talk about. Okay, so here's sort of the same type of problem. At least we're getting the same type of input. Return the student IDs. Okay, so if I give a grades list like this, and I want to get the student IDs from this, so the student IDs should be returned are these. I have to make sure to use the right quotes. Oh boy, okay. Go away. Okay, so given grades, return the student IDs for all the students and grades where the inner list contains a student ID and a grade. Okay, yeah, so this is what it should return. And given that grades is a list, the order, we know the order, right? So just return the list of student IDs in the same order as the list they're given in grades. And that means we can do a doc test. We can do a docstring test because I can predict the order. If this was a set or a dictionary, it would have been a different game. All right, we'll do the easy one. Student IDs empty. What should this be? Empty. One more. Singleton, not a bad idea. 0244968. That was my student number at university. And of course I did excellent. I got 100. It's not true. I was actually a pretty shitty student. 244968. So that should be correct as well. Sure. Okay. So how many functions did I give you guys to implement? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh no, that doesn't count. 4. How many more do I got for you? Cool. Let's do this one, and then I'll show you how to do a unit test, and then I'll let you guys go. Return a string where index I is xi, I, if max I, blah, 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 blah. Okay. I know what this is. Return a string where xi if mask I is 0, y's I if mask I is 1. All of these things have to be the same in length, and mask is a 0, 1 bit string. Okay? So if I have something like Paul, Greg, and then my mask is 0, 1, 0, 1, this should return I choose this one, then this one, then this one, then this one. Does everyone get that? Right, so I have two strings of equal length, and then a bit string which tells me which character to choose in constructing the answer. Okay, so let's do some other ones. So if I say Paul and Greg 1, 1, 1, 1, that should be what? Greg. 0, 0, 0, 0. Great. Okay, let's do some more. Let's do edge cases now. Empties. So on your exam and stuff, I've seen this happen a lot. That like,
Can mask be empty?
It doesn't violate the contract, right? The contract says it can only comprise. The contract says if mask has a member, then that member has to be a 0 and a 1. Since mask has no members, it has no opportunity to violate the contract.
But then would y's, x's, and mask have the same length?
What I just wrote, it is true that empty, empty, empty all have length 0. So the answer to this should be what? Yeah, empty. Is there anything else that we can come up which is interesting? You can. They all have to be equal length. A singleton, I guess, would not be bad. Choose characters. I have A, I have B. And 0 should select for what? A. And a 1 should select for B. Anything else? No, because like remember what I said that like doing special. If I put an emoji in for A and B, I'm not
I keep forgetting what
escape characters. Yeah. So yeah, that's actually not a bad idea. So if I do this, okay, so I have two tabs here, and here I have BB, and I want to take 1, 0. Oh, sorry. Yeah, what should this return? So I should first select what? 1 selects for the, okay. 1 selects, let me reverse this then. So 0 selects tab, which is what? 4 characters? 1, 2, 3, 4. And the second thing selects B. Let's just see. Print tab B. Whoa, well, how come that tab is so big? How big is a tab? That seems wrong. Okay, so we need to do this exactly. I thought it was 4 spaces, but apparently I am wrong. You're correct. Oh, it actually put in a tab. Well, I don't know. Maybe I have to. think maybe I write this 1, 2, 3, 4, B, but I'm not sure. This one I'm not sure about. I'm gonna have to look into like, yeah, but see, these really are the interesting edge cases, right? Stuff that people would just never think about, and stuff that we will put into doc testing for your assignments, right? So you have to get really used to trying to think of crazy cases, which are technically not violations of contract, but weird edge cases that you never expected to consider. Like this one, tab BB. That was a good catch. Okay, so I'm gonna put all of this. How much time do I got? I'm gonna put all of this online with one extra thing, which I didn't show you because it didn't really go that well in the other class. So if you want to see me explain this file, look at the YouTube video. But basically, here is an example of how to do a unit test. The problem is that you have to use an object. You have to instantiate an object. I don't want to tell you what an object is yet. This is going to take a long time to like establish the correct language and background for this. But suffice it to say, if you just follow this generic structure, then you can write tests like test 1, test 2, and this is testing the absolute value function, right? So it says my input is 8, the expected output for that input is 8, the result is the absolute value of the input, and then this is just going to do the actual test, right? So here, you get access to this assert equal. So this is no longer testing equivalence of strings. This is now actually testing equivalence of value, right? So a unit test allows you to calculate correctness for functions that return unordered objects, right? Because this will legitimately compare the value 1, 2, 3 set with a value of 3, 2, 1 set, and they'll find it equivalent. Same for dictionaries, same for other unordered types that aren't coming to me now. So you basically just have to read this into Python, and then you call this. You just call unittest.main. I don't want to really write this. Okay, let me see if I can paste this, then I can show you. Otherwise, you can go. I can't paste it. So I'll see you guys Friday then. Make sure to give all of these a try. I'll stick them online. All right. It's good practice.